Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, there was a time when mathematics and I just were not on speaking terms, and nowadays, we talk a lot more. But even before that, as I went through my daily life, when I encountered a task or an obstacle, I kind of knew what my chances were. And what I mean by that is this: you or I, we go through life, we do our daily tasks, we do things we do all the time, or situations come up that we're familiar with or unfamiliar with. But even if we're not super familiar with something, we can kind of size things up and realize what our chances are. We may not be able to assign actual percentage numbers to them, but we kind of have ballpark idea. You can size something up and say, this is impossible. There's no way I'm doing that. You can say, well, this is a Hail Mary. You can say, well, this is going to be difficult, but I think I might be able to do this given the right set of circumstances. Maybe it's 50-50. Maybe this looks pretty easy, maybe a little challenging, but it should be no problem. Or something I can do in my sleep, or man, unless I trip over my own shoelaces in a freak accident, there's no way I'm going to not be able to do this. And I believe our characters have that same kind of knowledge, or they should have that same kind of knowledge. They should be able to size situations up and kind of have a pretty good idea of what their chances of success are. Now, in a lot of games, the mechanics are pretty easy, in terms of like you can size this up and metagame through your character because you kind of have to know too as a player in order for your character to know. Um, but if you're using something like that has D20 rolls, well, I mean that's easy. It's 5% increments. If you're using some kind of game that has a percentage D100 system, well, I mean it's right there in front of you. These are percentages. It's not rocket science. Sometimes you play games that have dice pools. This game here, I'm ridiculously enamored with Broken Rome Scramble Designs, which I want to talk about in at length in some other videos. But this game uses dice pools. You need a number of successes, and some tasks require just one success. Some tasks, which are incredibly daunting, require five, and you've got the ones in between. And it uses D12s, so you get to roll these bad boys, which I think is awesome because they are my favorite dice. But it gets a little weird and convoluted because, and it's not bad, it's just a little bit harder to ballpark your chances of success because on the one hand, you're rolling dice pools, and these dice pools can range from about, probably 2 to 8 dice. 8 is an awful lot of dice in this game, but you're rolling based on abilities, and so the abilities will let you roll 3, 4, or 5 dice, and then one of the abilities will eventually let you roll like something like 6. Um, if you buy into buy that much stuff, over time with experience and what have you. At the same point, or at the same time, you've got target numbers, and these target numbers on these dice that which will trigger success will change over time depending on your skills. So you could have something where you're unskilled at where your target number is 10, or if you have a really bad target number like an 11, which is rather unusual. But as you get more and more skilled, your target number could be 8 or 6, or in 5, or in extreme cases, if you're really ridiculously good at something, it might be 4. But for the most part, they're going to be like 7s and 8s and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit tougher to figure out what your chance of a success is, without doing some math first. And also to make things even a little bit more convoluted, if any of the two dice add up to 13, well then you've got this point of momentum, and I'll explain the system in another video sometime. But that you can buy extra dice with that at that point. So then what are your chances of rolling a 13? What are your chances of rolling several 13s? And it goes on and on. So fortunately, the internet has things like anydice.com now, and you can check your math, make sure you're doing if I want to figure out the probability of this, how do I do that? If you forget, that sort of thing. There's plenty of resources available if you're not sure. But I spent a portion of today just out of curiosity for my own edification, figuring out, well, what are the chances depending on what the target number is, depending on how many dice you're rolling, that sort of thing. What are your chances of getting some 13s, which kind of makes it more convoluted. But for me, that was helpful for me just to kind of take a look at the system. I like this system. This is not a critique of the system at all. I really like this game a lot. But it's a little tougher to just kind of be able to ballpark your percent chances of success. Now, it's easy to look at, for me to look at some charts I've made and say, okay, if I'm rolling 4 dice and my target number is 10, and I want 2 or more successes, well, okay, that's going to give me about 25% chance of two or more successes, about 4.5% chance of 3, and about 0.39% chance of 4 successes. Not very good. So if I'm rolling 4 dice, get 4 successes, I'm not going to bank on that. But I know if I'm looking for 2 successes, rolling these 4 dice, okay, a quarter, not awesome. I have a shot. What else can I do to put some, get another die in my favor, and maybe tip tip the scales in my favor, because man, if I earn myself another die, now I'm looking at like, man, 34, 30, closer to 40%, maybe 38. Pretty cool. So, I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but for me, I believe that my character ought to be able to size things up. And they're going to do it through me, obviously. So I need to be able to kind of look at the numbers a little bit. And as my character encounters a situation, they can kind of say, yeah, it doesn't look awesome, but they can make an informed choice. Do I think we need to know it down to your character should know down to the point, percentage point? No, of course not. But they should be able to size things out. So sometimes, for me, it makes sense to crunch little numbers in a system like this, so that when it comes time, game time, my character can make some informed decisions. What do you think? Do you not care? Or is this something that's important to you? Does game design fascinate you? Do the probabilities and mechanics fascinate you? Or are they just kind of there in the background and you just don't really think about them all that much? I'd like to hear your opinion.